Oh, you can't hear it because you're not wearing headphones.
That's cool.
Missing out. Let's get down to business. It's the Waiver Wire, episode 27. No, they didn't. Here's Cortland Sutton coming in hot, and Tyler didn't pick him up in any league. Gives advice, doesn't listen to it himself. He's a fucking idiot.
Whoa.
I know, man. I said it. We said it.
Yeah, you're fucking dumb,
We said
dude.
stash Cortland Sutton before the trade deadline, because if something happens and you have him for free, now everyone's going to try and go get him. All right.
And
Welcome back to another episode. The
don't
Average
sigh
Bros
so hard, dude. It's okay.
Fantasy Football Podcast. It's your boy T.
It's your boy A-Mac. Actually, I don't like being called A-Mac anymore.
No?
No.
Can I call you Tony Tones? I called you that, and your brother was like, dude.
Do that and you'll get stabbed.
Why?
Twice.
Why
Damn,
not?
Twice, bro.
What's
It's not
wrong
just
with Tony?
once.
All right. And I'm Michelle.
This is our fantasy consigliere.
I'm your fantasy
Miguel.
consigliere. We're talking waiver wires. It's a trade deadline day. It's over. Trade deadline's over. A lot of stuff to talk about, too. What do you guys want to get into first?
The trade deadline?
Yeah, let's
Maybe.
do that.
Let's do it.
Let's
go
let's
for
talk
it.
about these trades.
You can pick the trade since there was 3 of them, major ones.
Let's talk Golden Tate. What is it? What? I feel like everybody's talking about Golden Tate moving, but what does this do to the Lions side of the ball? Marvin Jones just had a huge game.
Yeah, I feel like Marvin Jones was due for a big game. He was actually in a waiver wire in one league, and I went to pick him up and throw him in there, and he got swooped up as I was looking who to drop. I was kind of pissed.
Damn.
But it happens. With Golden Tate leaving, it just kind of opens the door for more consistency, I think, with Marvin Jones and the Kenny G. You know, because it was basically a 3-man attack with those 3 there. Are we good on the mic?
Yeah, he good.
It was basically a 3-man attack, and it was, you know, Golden Tate was kind of consistently the 1 or the 2, and then Marvin Jones would flip-flop between or Marvin Jones and, what's his name, Kenny Galladay would be either the 1B or 3, or it was just kind of hard to bank on those 2 guys for consistency. Golden Tate was the
Jesus, dude.
Golden Tate was the consistent one, and now that he's gone, it just opens up more targets for these guys, a little bit more consistency. You know, it's if you have both these guys, it's moving forward. It makes them safer versus where they were a little bit of boom bust. You saw some, you know, bust from Kenny Galladay the last few weeks. You've seen some bust from Marvin Jones, but with Golden Tate gone, he was the target leader in that offense. So it just opens the door for these guys.
Yeah, I kind of
Wide
touched on Marvin Jones, like last one, saying, you know, if you could try to trade him. I think after this, you know, Golden Tate being gone, coming off a 2-touchdown game, you know, everyone's going to think, oh, he's going to be the go-to guy. I would for sure be selling high on him. Just my own personal opinion. I would try to move him and try to get someone good. You know what I'm saying? Like, try to get like a Devontae Adams or like a Mike Evans, Odell, you know, some like one of those top 10, you know, receivers.
You think you could do that with Marvin Jones?
I don't think so. That's what I was going to say.
Maybe take like Marvin Jones and someone and try to get him, because you could try to finagle the guy and say, hey, bro, look, like no Golden Tate. He just coming off a 2-touchdown game.
I feel like you have to come out
maybe
with a lot of explanation trying to sell that trade.
But some people might be thinking that, like, oh yeah, like he's, you know, so.
I think
something.
I think if you finesse it,
I think you're
maybe.
going to need a 2-for-1 to get some of those guys, but I don't know if you actually really are. You could be buying high on him because, like I said, Golden Tate is gone. Marvin Jones has had, going into this week, I believe he had 12 red zone targets and only caught 2 of them. So that number is just going to go up. He's shown in the past that he can catch red zone targets. So I don't necessarily think that with his target volume going up and the red zone targets he's always seen, and now Golden Tate out of the way, you know, I think he's going forward. Him and Galladay are both wide receiver too. So if I had him, I'd actually stay on him and hold him and see what happens.
So we got stay on him, sell him. He's got a hard playoff schedule though. No.
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on right now. That's kind of why I would try to sell him high right now. I mean, just like, because I'm always looking forward to the playoffs, weeks 14, 15, 16. So, because I was going to try to maybe buy Galladay low, you know, after this last couple of games he's been suffering. Especially, you could probably buy him low now too, even with the Golden Tate thing. But just some numbers just to keep an eye on for their playoff schedule. So, for Stafford, the last 4 weeks, you know, this is week 13, 14, 15, 16. So he plays the Rams, the Cardinals, Buffalo, and Minnesota. And those rank for the quarterbacks, it's the 29th, 30th, 28th, and 18th hardest. So those are all like red matchups. So then for the receivers, weeks 14, 15, 16, when he's playing at Arizona, at Buffalo, and then they're home against Minnesota. For the wide receivers, that's the 27th, 28th, and 29th hardest schedule for wide receivers. Now, I know that doesn't necessarily mean everything, but I would definitely feel more comfortable trying to get a receiver on my team that doesn't have that hard of a schedule. Like, could they for sure come out there and score some points? Yeah, especially because Golden Tate's gone. That's a ton of targets gone. I mean, every year Golden Tate, we touched in draft season. Golden Tate's like 90+ receptions, 1,000+ yards every single year. So now he's gone. So that's a lot of production that needs to be replaced. I think Galladay would be the guy I feel like would be the one to take more of it, in my opinion.
Do you think the running game maybe will?
That's a potential. That's a thing too. I mean, you're getting a defensive-minded coach here, so I was thinking about it. Like the Lions have never been able to run the ball. Their defense has never really been their best either. So, maybe that's why they threw the ball so much in the past. Now they get this defensive-minded coach. Maybe he's trying to switch the culture there. Maybe he's trying to make it more of like a let's play some good defense, let's run the ball, let's control the clock, protect the ball, type of deal. So. I would be fading these guys. Like I said, this is like my own personal opinion. I would be trying to trade Marvin Jones if I could. Try to get something, maybe package him.
See, when you say fading him, though, like, what are you fading him to? Because they're both, in my eyes, wide receiver twos, even with them at tough matchups or somewhat tough matchups. So, I mean, kind of like, just for the listeners, describe what you mean by like fading them, because these are players I think you can start going in a week out, and even with the matchups.
Just try to find, like, if you think they're wide receiver twos, then try to like find a wide receiver two with better matchups, I guess, down the stretch.
Yeah.
So, or like I said, package them. Like, try to trade him in like a running back to try to booster a running back spot, or say if you don't have if you have some depth at wide receiver position and you don't necessarily need to start a Marvin Jones or a Kenny Galladay, but you're weak at tight end, maybe try to trade one of them and try to get like a solid tight end. That way you can fill that spot. Booster that spot on your roster. I just don't like the playoff schedule going forward. I wouldn't feel comfortable throwing those guys in my lineup in the playoffs with, like I said, just how tough those schedules are. 2 road games. It just looks ugly. On paper, it just looks ugly.
Yeah.
So
difference in opinion here, but
no, I'm trying to. Some people say Tyler's saying fade, and I get what he's saying, but I'm just thinking from like a listener standpoint. They might be like, oh, like I'm going to bench Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay, and kind of just trying to get him to clarify a little more by what he means fade wise. No, I agree. The playoff schedule is kind of tough. The thing is too is the schedule is some of these guys have one good corner, so who's going to be the number one here? Is if it's Galladay, then Jones is going to have some good games being the outside one, not seeing the tighter coverage. If it's Jones that's viewed as the one, then Galladay is going to have some games where he gets the lesser coverage. Also, I think some of their schedules, they haven't been winning a lot of games. They were losing last week in Seattle, so even if they do want to run the ball, they have the Vikings coming up. They could be trailing. They have the Bears coming up. They could be trailing. They play the Panthers. They could be trailing. Bears again, Rams. These are all games where they could be trailing, and this might lead to a lot more pass attempts.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess what you're saying, too, that's a good point. Who's the one, who's not? So down the stretch in the playoffs, it's going to be Patrick Peterson, Tre'Davious White, and Xavier Rhodes. Those are 3 top 10 corners in the league, probably. So if they are going to, maybe focus on Galladay mainly, then maybe Marvin Jones is the guy who, like you said, he has 12 red zone targets already. That's a lot of red zone targets to have. But like I said, someone might be thinking like, oh, no Golden Tate. I mean, I know Galladay's had 2 bad games these last 2 weeks, but before that, he was consistent. I think he was getting like PPR-wise like 15 points every single week around there. So maybe someone's thinking like, oh, no Golden Tate. I'm going to try and buy him on the low. Maybe you can get some value for him. I just wouldn't feel comfortable with him. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anyone. Just like a better wide receiver too, with an easier schedule. Look at the schedule. You just always got to be paying attention. Like, who are they going to play? Because when you get in the playoffs, bro, it's anyone's game. And the last thing you want to do is like have a player who's just balling out, and then that first week in the playoffs, or maybe those first 2 weeks in the playoffs, they have super hard matchups. They put up a dud for you, and that ends up costing you. And you think to yourself, man, I have this stacked team. Like, how did I lose? Like, try to prepare your roster for those weeks 14, 15, 16. This is the time to do it. You know, start making some moves. Start looking for planning for those 3 weeks, because when you get like your goal should just to be to get in the playoffs. Like, yeah, you want to get the 1 seed, maybe you get a bye, whatnot. But for me personally, I just want to get in the playoffs, and then it's a 3-game winning streak. You just got to win 3 games to win it all. So
I think this is kind of my feeling on it is, I think if you're going to trade these guys, package them to get a 1, because the target volume for these guys could be borderline double digits week in and week out. You get into the 2s, you're looking at like Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, John Brown, Robinson. These guys, even with a good matchup, aren't guaranteed to see 10-plus targets. They're very up and down. Now, we could be looking at a situation where these guys are both 9, 10, 11 targets week in and week out. So if you do make a trade, go out and try and maybe package him for like a Mike Evans, a Keenan Allen, AJ, or get someone in that range, because I do believe these guys are going to have high volume week in and week out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, get them and maybe take another person, especially if you've got some depth. Maybe even if you have to give up a little bit more than you're receiving, but you're like, boosting that slot, that wide receiver 1. You're getting a wide receiver 1, or you're getting like a solid running back. Do something like that. That's just what I was trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go talk about big boy Demaryius Thomas.
Or do you want to just flop over to Golden Tate, keep it on the same kind of trade?
Sure.
So how do you feel about Golden Tate after this trade?
I mean, for me, I'm always big on, like, if you trade for someone or if you sign someone in the offseason, like, then you have plans to use that person. So if they went to go get him, obviously they're not in love with Jordan Matthews. They're not even in love with Nelson Aguilar. I think Nelson Aguilar is droppable probably in every single league. I don't think he has any type of value now with Golden Tate there. We'll see how he gets integrated into the system. But, I mean, if he's there, he's probably going to offer that same, I would assume, that same type of like floor as he did in Detroit. He's probably going to be like a good solid PPR machine. I don't know if he's going to have, high touchdown upside, but I think this is better for him because, like I said, that playoff schedule was rough for the Lions. And Golden Tate was a guy who I was like thinking about trying to trade for in the past, but the playoff schedule worried me. Now it's like, okay, he's on the Eagles. I wouldn't mind trying to go out and acquire Golden Tate personally for my own team.
I feel like he's almost the same guy.
I would actually be trying to trade him.
Really?
Looking at the numbers, if you look into it closer, the Lions average 23.75 passes per game to the wide receiver. You move over to the Eagles' side, you're looking at 16.75. That's a drop off of 7 targets to the wide receiver position. Now coming in, he has to learn a whole new offense. Yes, I know he's going to probably take over most of Aguilar's role, but Aguilar isn't just going to go away completely. Jordan Matthews isn't just going to go away completely. And the one difference is they use the tight end a ton in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, Ertz had 116, or the tight end position is 116 targets to Detroit 26 targets. So the volume he was getting in Detroit was about 10 targets per game. It was 9.8. I just don't see him with Jeffrey there, Ertz there, the way they pass their running backs, not throwing as much volume as Detroit is. I don't see him being able to replicate the amount of targets and volume he was getting there. And he's not the red zone threat. Like, he already has Ertz ahead of him in the red zone. He has Jeffrey in front of him in the red zone. Eagles aren't afraid to run it in the red zone. I think I'd be selling high because I don't know if he's going to be able to do what he did in Detroit.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I think the biggest thing, too, is learning a whole new system this far into the season.
It's so tough for receivers to kind of come in and make an impact that quick. I mean, you got, week 9. Let's give him 2-3 weeks, 10, 11, 12. Maybe he gets, full starts of snaps by week 12, 13, but it's, you're hitting that crunch time to where you can't be waiting for someone for a few weeks. So I would try and sell him. They have a bye week, the name, the Eagles offense. People love the Eagles offense. Find an Eagles fan in your league for sure, and I would try and sell him to that. But I just think it's going to be hard for him to – it's a downgrade for me for Golden Tate, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess he kind of does step into in Detroit, there was 3 receivers there. I guess you can kind of call him like the 1A maybe for the target share he was getting there. Now he's going to be behind Ertz because I think Ertz is the one there, and then Alshon Jeffrey. So he's probably like the third, maybe 3A, I guess, if you want to call it wide receiver 3A, him and Aguilar.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good move football-wise for the Eagles because now you got, like I said, you got Aguilar, you got Tate, you got Alshon, Ertz. You even got Goddard who can make some plays here and there. So maybe this is maybe they realize they can't really run the ball as well, so they're trying to just throw the ball a ton. Maybe this is like a move to go maybe go get Wentz or something, if you can, potentially. Just an idea.
Yeah, I think Golden Tate's he's definitely a better receiver than Aguilar is. And Aguilar's had a decent amount of targets, 7.6 per game. He's averaged 6.8 when Jeffrey's been in there, so it's been down. But he just hasn't done much this target. So this is a move to where, the ex Super Bowl champions are trying to make a move to, get back to the Super Bowl. And like you said, it's a good football move, but from a fantasy perspective, I think it's kind of a downgrade for Tate.
I would concur. This makes me very glad I packaged trade Tate a couple weeks ago.
You feel good about it?
Yeah, I feel good.
Good job, Mike.
Way to go.
Yeah.
I see the future. Now, you guys, let's talk about Demaryius Thomas. We talked about this in a previous episode. They were trying to trade Thomas or Sanders. They were open for trades, so we were expecting a Broncos wide receiver to leave that team, and it happened. How does it affect the teams? What do you guys think?
The Texans or the Broncos?
I suppose we'll just keep it.
Or we'll just keep it with Demaryius Thomas.
Sure.
So he's going there to replace Will Fuller. Now, the problem I have with it is Will Fuller's never been a high target guy, but he is super fast. Like he
Wicked
makes
fast.
fast people look not fast.
Yeah.
So
That
Will
fast.
Fuller had a lot of relevance because he was able to take, a 50-yard pass for a touchdown. He was able to take a slant for 20, 30 yards. Demaryius Thomas at this point in his career, he's 31 years old or 30 years old. He's not a burner anymore. He doesn't get too much separation. He's more of a, possession style, big body guy, make the contested catch type. So
Right.
without him seeing a high target volume, which I was looking into the numbers, and there's only been in 2 games with Kiki Cutie, Will Fuller, and DeAndre Hopkins on the field. Only in 2 games outside of DeAndre Hopkins, because he always sees double-digit targets,
Yeah.
have either of those guys seen double-digit targets. Kiki is obviously not going to go anywhere. So you were looking at Will Fuller, who averaged 6.5 targets per game. So let's just say Demaryius is in the 6 to 7 range. With him not being a big play guy, I mean, he's going to be very touchdown dependent, I feel like, at this point.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of, I'm thinking more if he's just like a savvy veteran, possession type receiver. Maybe he's going to get some red zone targets here and there, but I mean, it's D-Hop, all day. Like Anthony just said, Will Fuller's the burner. He's the field stretcher. That's not what Demaryius does. Not anymore, at least. Plus, you got, like you said, you got Kiki Cutie there, too. So, a guy for me who I was going to run and grab in a lot of leagues was Kiki Cutie after the Will Fuller injury, because I felt like, he's going to get a ton of volume, with Fuller being gone. Now, this has kind of got murky, This definitely helps Watson. This definitely helps the offense. You pick up a solid veteran wide receiver like DT. I just don't know about the value. I mean, I think it kind of stays the same. He's kind of back in this situation where there's still 3 receivers. He's not even the one because you got D-Hop. So I think he kind of like the even,
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's even. If anything, it could even be a little bit of a downgrade.
A little bit of a downgrade, yeah, because
he does have better quarterback play, though, which is the one, the reason I'd probably put him more on the even scale is because, Case Keenum's been really inefficient. He hasn't been good. Versus where you have Deshaun Watson, who's been, he's had some big games. He's been good from time to time. So I think the one bright spot, if you want to look at it from a bright spot perspective, is that he's going to a Deshaun Watson offense against a Case Keenum offense. But still, I think the target volume for him to be, 8, 9, 10 targets in a game, it's going to be really hard to predict that, being, like you said, he's in a 3-man committee now, versus where in Denver, yeah, Sutton was there, but he wasn't seeing too high of a target volume yet. It was more, 1 and 2 between him and Emmanuel Sanders. So now he's in a 3-headed receiving attack, and I think it's, like I said, at best, I think it's even.
yeah.
But I could see it being more of a downgrade than anything.
Yeah. I mean, Case Keenum has I think, what was it, 2? How many passing touchdowns?
I don't think he had a game over 2 passing touchdowns.
Yeah,
before last week, he was 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in the year.
Yeah.
And I think he had how many? 1 or last week or 2?
I can't remember.
I think Emmanuel Sanders, my man crush, has more passing touchdowns.
He definitely has a higher QBR.
Crazy.
So let me ask you a
for
question
sure.
with the whole DT thing going over there now. So, like I said, we touched on Kiki Cutie for a second. I'm kind of thinking, is Kiki Cutie the guy you kind of want instead of Demaryius Thomas? Who would you rather have, Kiki Cutie or Demaryius Thomas the rest of the season?
I'd rather have Kiki Cutie.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, if anything, D-Hop and DT kind of take, the defenses back. And then, we've kind of seen them use Kiki Cutie, all over the field. Jet sweeps, motion, screen passes, all over the field. He's the slot guy. So, I'm thinking maybe he's the guy who sees this might actually benefit him, because now instead of defenses, really focusing on him and D-Hop, now it's they got D-Hop, Demaryius Thomas, and then Kiki Cutie kind of falls third in the pecking order. But maybe he's the one who, he's a burner. He's got the speed. Like they
Right.
lost the speed with Will Fuller. If they need to replace that speed, Kiki Cutie would be the guy, not Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, he's only 21 years old. Jesus.
Yeah. I think
I don't know. He's that young. Sorry, I was looking at Kiki Cutie stats.
How
Yes,
does
he's only 21. Yeah, well, Kiki Cutie, I kind of was, thinking this morning, I'm like, does this trade, really affect his value all that much? Like Tyler just pointed out to a little bit. Will Fuller at this point in his career is better than Demaryius Thomas. So, the attention, though, from a different defensive coordinator might be trying to take away Demaryius Thomas, trying to take away DeAndre Hopkins. And Kiki Cutie is a burner. He's a burner. Like, if I say it, I'll say it again. He's a burner. So it's kind of, I feel like he's going to have some of those. I hate to use a Dolphins reference, but we're Dolphins fans, so we watch a lot more games than anything. Where, it used to be back when we had Landry, it'd be Landry, Devontae Parker, and Kenny Stills would be on the field, and defenses just seem to not account for Kenny Stills on certain plays because they'd be focused on Landry, they'd be focused on Parker, and Kenny Stills would just burn past the slot corner for a 60-yard touchdown. I think you're going to see some of that still. I think Kiki Cutie still has some value. I'm going to try and go after him. I think his target value could still stay relatively the same, but there's a chance that he ends up taking two to three of those deep targets a game that used to go to Fuller go to him now.
Yeah. For sure, Kiki Cutie, like you said, you're going to grab him. I'm going to look out and grab him. We'll touch on him when we dive into the waiver wire portion of this episode. So let's kind of jump to the other side of this trade right here. So DT's gone. We touched on it. Sutton, Mike, you were saying you were stashing Sutton in a lot of leagues just because, you heard these trade rumors going along. Boom, DT's gone. Now Sutton kind of turns into like that wide receiver too. Because I think we would say Manny's been the wide receiver one in that offense. But
And quarterback one.
So and he's kind of been low key the RB2 behind
Yeah, seriously.
For real.
Manny's doing everything over
It's
there.
like three positions in one.
He's
He's like
doing everything
Terrell
over there.
Pryor on that Browns game.
Yeah. So no more Demaryius Thomas. So Sutton, before this happened, he was already getting 70% of the snaps on average. So I can only imagine that number's going to skyrocket and go up even more. He's probably going to be seeing, I would guess, like 85, 90% of the snaps probably.
Yeah, you got to figure he's jumping up.
I can't imagine him leaving the field unless they run like one wide receiver set,
Yeah, he's gonna take over on the outside, where Demaryius Thomas was, and then you got to figure either one of Tim Patrick or Deshaun Hamilton will take over where he used to be.
Yeah.
But I do like Sutton. My only worry is it comes down to Case Keenum. I don't think Case Keenum can support. Manny Sanders at this point is a low end one, high end two, and he's going to be there and stay there probably the rest of the year. The problem I have is I don't think Case Keenum can sustain two top 24 receivers. I think Cortland Sutton, unfortunately, due to the quarterback position, is going to be more of a wide receiver 3, where you're trying to find the good matchup and play him in that. And now I'm still looking to grab him. I just think his upside's capped due to the quarterback. That's kind of my feel on it.
Yeah, no, I would probably agree with that.
I think that too, but it's like you have guys that have had Demaryius Thomas all season, and they've been being able to play him every once in a while in the good matchup games and stuff like that. It's like, so with him being, I don't know, I agree, but I mean, just him going, his snap percentage is going up. Okay, maybe not top 24, but.
Top 30, like you said, wide receiver 3, flex guy.
He's more of a wide receiver 3, I think. If they had a better quarterback situation, I think you could see him in the wide receiver 2 range. I mean, he is very talented too. I think he might be better than Demaryius Thomas at this point in his career. But, he is still a rookie, so there are some, growing pains. If Case Keenum was a guy who was throwing maybe 2-1 touchdowns, let's say he had like 20 touchdowns in the year and 10 interceptions, I'd feel a lot better going in with Cortland Sutton. But like I think you said, he's going to be more of a good matchup script, like when they're playing someone where they're going to need to throw the ball a lot, and maybe he's going to get more targets in this game because it kind of is. Unfortunately, it sucks because it's a quarterback play. Manny Sanders is going to get see his, so it's just when Sanders is the one, it's just hard to bank on someone like that unless it's a good matchup.
Right.
So I agree with both of you. I agree that he's like a wide receiver 3. Like you said, it's hard to sustain 2 top 24 wide receivers. And like you said, Manny's just doing everything over there. But then I also agree
Maybe
with
I'm
you,
just butthurt.
Mike. No, I also agree with you, Mike, that and you got people out there, they drafted Demaryius Thomas in like the 4th round, 5th round or whatever, and they've been playing him every week pretty much. So if he's not there, I can't imagine people not being able to play Sutton the same amount. The only thing with Sutton, maybe just thinking something, is maybe he's more of like a matchup guy, like you were just saying. Because I mean, like say if they play a game where they're playing against I don't know, Patrick Peterson, for example, and Patrick Peterson's going to shadow Sutton the whole game, or like an Xavier Rhodes, Tre'Davious White, one of these top corners. Those guys would probably shadow Sutton. That would leave Manny open in the slot more, since he runs majority of his routes out of the slot. That's probably would help Manny and limit Sutton's upside. So he would probably have to be in a game where they don't have good corners, potential shootout to where they're throwing the ball, and then I would feel more comfortable throwing Sutton up there. So he's probably matchup based, but just some numbers on Sutton. He's had 37 targets so far. Demaryius had 56, so that's a huge amount of targets that are being gone now. Demaryius had 8 red zone targets, and he had 3 inside the 10. Those are gone, so those got to go somewhere. And Manny Sanders was only getting he's not getting any red zone targets. Manny Sanders only has like 1 red zone target. I mean, 1 inside the 10, and he only had like 3 or 4 inside the 20. So that's where Demaryius was getting a ton of targets. I'm going to assume that majority of those go to Sutton. They don't really have a tight end. I don't even know the tight end's name, Hoomerville or Rummenheimer.
It's Hoffman and Lacoste, but they've actually they've targeted their tight ends a decent amount low key. It's one of, I'm looking at it right now. It's one of those numbers where they don't really have a huge tight end target, but they do target these guys a decent amount in the game. 10 targets last week for the tight end position. The week before 1, but they only threw the ball 19 times in that game. The week before that, 11 to the tight end. The week before that, 7 to the tight end. 8, 7, 9, 5. So the tight end position is actually targeted with 3 tight ends a decent amount. Something I'm kind of like just trying to become a better fantasy player is I try and stay away a little bit from assuming that, okay, just because X player is gone, all these targets are going to go that way. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, I kind of want to watch and see because, yeah, Cortland Sutton's going to run 90% of the routes, but maybe his targets only go up 2 per game. And, one of these guys, Tim Patrick or Deshaun Hamilton, is going to have a role. They're going to eat into some of that target volume that's gone from Demaryius. So while I do see his targets going up, I don't know if it's too much of a significant amount to consider him on a weekly too. Like you said, I think it's more of like he's a flex wide receiver 3 in good matchups. You can feel comfortable starting him. But I do like the red zone upside, like you touched.
Yeah.
I think he could have some high potential red zone upside for sure.
Yeah. So just looking at their schedule going down the stretch for the Broncos wide receivers. So they play Houston. They're 25th ranked, so that's kind of a tough matchup right there. Then they go on a bye. But then after that, they don't face a top 12 passing defense along the way. So they play the Chargers. They're 7. Pittsburgh's 4. Cincinnati's 6, San Francisco's 9, Cleveland's 11, and Oakland's 10. So these are like the easiest. The lower the number, the easier.
There's some tough corners in there.
But
though.
yeah, like we're just touching the corner. So you got Chargers, Casey Hayward, probably going to shadow Sutton. That's a tough matchup. Pittsburgh, Joe Hayden's been playing way better than people have been giving him credit. Cincinnati, that's probably a good matchup right there. San Francisco, they have Sherman, but he doesn't really shadow, so that would probably be an easy one. Cleveland, they got Denzel Ward, but I probably wouldn't be worried about that either.
Ward's been good, actually.
He's been pretty good.
He's been really good. He's been better than.
And then Oakland, you're not worried about Oakland at all, too. So the schedule is pretty juicy down the stretch. So I mean, you're definitely gonna go add this guy. He's available in 85% of leagues. We'll touch on him in a little bit, but he's definitely go get him.
I know those corners scare me.
Yeah, Manny Sanders all day.
Even Fitzpatrick has been a good corner for Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Kirkpatrick. That's what I meant. I was thinking the Fitz magic he got in my head. Sure.
Magic.
Yeah, that's just a tough score. There's some good ones in there.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me wonder though. Some of those ones end up shadowing Sanders a little bit to try and help.
Could be, but most of the corners won't shadow into the slot.
There's only like 1 or 2 corners
There's
actually.
only a couple who do that.
Dude, I
think
love
Casey
slots.
Hayward might be one of those corners, but
I was looking at the shadow matrix, which is on Pro Football Focus. This is kind of like same subject, but there's only a few corners that actually shadow in this day and age in the NFL that actually shadow players across the field. I mean, I was looking at matrices, and there's only been a few games where a corner will shadow someone for over 80%. A lot of times these shadow corners are about 50, 60% of the snaps. So something I noticed last week, and I'm going to kind of try and look at some numbers with it and see, because you look at a matchup and you're saying, oh, so-and-so is the corner there. But if he doesn't shadow 80 to 100% of the snaps, then that receiver is going to have opportunities against lesser coverage.
yeah, for sure.
They're just basically there aren't as many shadow. They're not the NFL's not shadowing with corners as much as they used to. There used to be more like premium shadow corners. Now they kind of leave their corners on one side, or maybe they don't fall into a slot. So I'm kind of starting to fade the whole corner matchup a little bit. And it's something where I'm not like, okay, this guy has a tough corner matchup, but I'm not fading him just because there's some corners.
Sure.
Yeah. For sure. All right. Any more trades? There's another trade, wasn't there? Oh, if you get fumbled, you get traded.
You get fumbled.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, we like you. We were gonna cut you and leave you unemployed, but we like you.
Yeah, that
so
was like
we'll
last
trade
minute.
you.
That was
Like
probably
the-
the last one.
The Ravens are like, we like running backs that fumble. We got Alex Collins. Come on over here.
Yeah, fuck, dude.
What, you fumble? Oh, hell yeah. Third rounder. Send it.
I like that meme about the third round, fifth round, fourth round picks, and then they traded. Who was that for the first round pick?
Amari.
Yeah, Amari Cooper for a first round pick, and all these other guys like fucking Josh Gordon, all for like fifth round picks.
I mean, I know that I saw the meme I know you're talking about, and I know everyone's thinking like these, Josh Gordon for a fifth, but that's because there's so much trouble with him.
Yeah.
He's so risky.
He was already
he's
late
already
this week.
he's already been he's been
Golden Tate's not a true number one, so I understand you only get third. Demarius on the tail end of his career. I mean, I know Amari Cooper hasn't had a year that everyone expected, and even last year had a bad year, but I mean, Anthony probably knows better than anyone. Those first 2 years, he was crazy good, and I mean, he's only 24 years old.
He's still only 24.
I mean, he's entering his prime probably, and I mean, I know, like I said, Anthony's probably done more research on Cooper than anyone I know, and I mean, you said you watched the film, and he's just always open, right?
I mean, not necessarily always open, but he's getting separation, and he there's plays where he'll run a double move or a deep post, and he's open, and Carr's already looking down to check down to the running backs, or throw 5 yards at the line of scrimmage. Carr's just he's a captain check down at this point.
Yeah,
He's top 5 captain check down quarterbacks.
dude. Yeah, if you get points for passes within the 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, pick up Carr. He's available.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a couple people break because it's hard to actually get film unless you have like the NFL Game Pass. So I was watching people like on their own studies that have it just break down the film and watch the routes, watch the moves. Watch them kind of, even when they were rolling coverage towards him, he was still being able to get open. It's just Carr's not, he's getting rid of the ball after 2 seconds, and Amari Cooper's route, takes 3 seconds sometimes, 4 seconds for it to develop.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know, and like you said, it does sound kind of stupid, but how many first round draft picks do you go as a wide receiver, as an organization? Do you take we're going to take this wide receiver and look, it's a bust?
There's a ton of first round. You're right. There is a ton of first round draft.
There could be 6 receivers in a first round that are drafted, and all 6 of them are bust. At least you kind of know what.
Just look at the Browns. They can't fucking do anything. They've had a million first round picks.
It's like you pay a first round premium for a guy who in his first 2 years, he was already been 1,000-yard receiver, 80+ catch guy. He already has the talent and has done it at the NFL level. So if coming into here, if he performs like a first round draft pick, what's the big deal about giving up a first round draft pick when you basically hit on your first round draft pick?
Yeah, right.
So there's both sides to it too. So
I think it's a good trade. Like you just said, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what you're getting. At least, I mean, you're saying how many receivers go in the first round that don't play. I mean, for example, just top of the head is Treadwell from the Vikings, first round draft pick. He doesn't even see the field, and then they have the guy Adam Thielen who didn't even get drafted, walk on tryout player, and he's just leading the league in fucking yards.
That's
so
on
it just
2,000
shows you,
yards,
like, yeah, you can go out here and be like, oh man, this guy's got all the accolades. He's super athletic. He's got the potential. Like, let's draft him in the first round. And he doesn't do shit. Guy's like barely on the field. Now you got Adam Thielen over here. People are like, oh, he's not good enough. That no one drafted him. He's
Bro,
leading the league in
That's
NFL.
how you get gay, dude. That's how you get gay, bro.
did.
I'm just saying that's how you get that, because remember, it's get gay, dude. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's talk about Ty Montgomery, goddamn
Okay.
it. Fuck, we just went on a Cooper rampage.
Cooper. So Ty Montgomery. It's when it comes to trades, with the running backs have a little bit of a quicker transition to being able to make an impact with the team. They don't have to. It's just harder for receivers to come in and learn. Running backs, you're kind of just hit this gap,
Well,
hit
bro,
this hole.
are they gonna keep him? Is he gonna be a running back there or a receiver?
Both.
I mean, he was a receiver before.
Here's the thing: is he comes into a three-headed committee, like which he basically was just in Green Bay. The thing I kind of wonder is Buck Allen's been very, very, very inefficient with his touches, and I could easily see Ty Montgomery taking borderline all the touches he had, just because he is actually a pretty good running back. He is actually a good receiver, and Buck Allen is look at the numbers. He's very inefficient with his touches, and he could add more of an explosive element to Baltimore's.
Are you picking up Ty Montgomery if you got him on the waivers?
I'll take a flyer on him.
Yeah,
Like I
I
said, he
think
could
I'm
be
the
a
same
more
way.
efficient Buck Allen. That's
I have Buck Allen in a league, and he's been riding my bench for most of the season. I might go and pick up Ty Montgomery just for shits and giggles.
yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you said. Like I said again, if you're going to trade for someone, I can't imagine you wasting a draft pick and then him just sitting on the sidelines, the rest of the year. So, if anything, I think you kind of hit the nail right in the head. I think he kind of just takes that Buck Allen role, that third down running back. Obviously, they're not going to give Alex Collins a full workload. They've been kind of split in that 50-50, 60-40 type split area. So I think, like I said, Tom Montgomery kind of just takes over that. It's kind of murky over there. I don't know if I would take a flyer on him, but
this is almost bigger for the Green Bay side of it with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams.
yeah, for sure.
How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah. Actually, I would take more of a flyer in a PPR league.
Yeah.
I think he's
Yeah.
more of a
Pass
PPR
catching.
flyer guy. Yeah. In a standard league, I don't know how great I would feel about it, but in a PPR league, I think he's someone where you might get some value out of him because Buck Allen was getting a ton of targets. Flacco does tend to check down a lot. He was even getting carries at one point when they were splitting pretty close. So you could see, maybe 6-7 targets a game for Montgomery, maybe 7-8 carries. And in a PPR league, that's you can get value out of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess what you're saying, go take a flyer on him, stash him, hold him.
Yeah. I mean, look
see
at
what happens.
Look at what Jalen Richard kind of did last week. I think he could
Yeah.
be somewhere in that role. 7 catches in games here. A match, especially if they have a tough matchup. Maybe they're playing KC or Pittsburgh or just a tough matchup that week, and they kind of got to throw a lot. But let's move over to, you said, the Packers side.
Yeah, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams. This was the most frustrating backfield for a long time. Does this help out? I don't know. I still almost don't know what to do about that backfield.
Well, the thing is okay now. It was like I touched on. I think me and you touched on it in the episode. It was the snap percentages for these guys were like 33%, 31%, 30% for all three. It was borderline a legit split dead even ass 3-man committee. Now it's just down to a 2-man committee. So you got to figure there's a little value in one of these guys right here, whether it's Jamal or Aaron Jones. I like Aaron Jones. I think he's an explosive back and a good back. But Jamal did get the red zone carry, I think, last week when I was watching the game.
Yeah.
So it could be it could be one of those things where Aaron Jones ends up being the between the 20s and Montgomery's the inside the 20 guy, and it could make it kind of ugly. So I don't know how you feel about it.
I mean, I think this is great if you have Aaron Jones. I was telling Mike, someone sent me a trade offer this morning. They tried to trade me Aaron Jones in like a package deal for Marlon Mack, and I just told him like, no, that's messy over there. And then the trade went through, and I'm like, fuck, man, maybe I should have accepted that. But I guess you couldn't see that.
You can't foresee a time.
Now looking at him like, man, like Aaron Jones' value, I think shoots up. I don't think Jamal Williams goes anywhere though. I mean, I think they kind of just take over 50, probably like a 60-40 split. Maybe Aaron Jones. The thing that just keeps eliminating Jones, from what I keep hearing, is that he's not very good at pass protection, and that's kind of what keeps Jamal Williams on the field. I think is that he's a better pass protector. So on certain plays, they're obviously a pass first team. So yeah, I think for sure this boosts Aaron Jones' value. He's probably going to see that RB2 value. Jamal Williams is probably like a flex guy now for me.
Yeah, I think Aaron Jones is in the RB2 territory with high upside. I mean, he's 6.2 yards per carry. Actually, I saw a tweet last week, or is it last week or the week before, where there is this notion that Jamal Williams is a better pass blocker, but Pro Football Focus actually has Aaron Jones rated better at pass blocking. So I don't know how much there is to truth of if he's bad or Jamal Williams is better, but that's just a tweet I saw. I think it was either last week or the week before. I mean, he's explosive. So if he's going to get 10 to 15 carries, it's going to stay a committee a week, plus a few catches. I think he's RB2 with some RB1 weeks in him where, he breaks a long run or breaks some big plays. So I like Aaron Jones going forward.
Trade target or what?
If you can buy low on him right now, I would.
Yeah, I think,
like let's just say, okay, like I was saying, for example,
I think
try to move one of these receivers, Galladay or Jones, just spitball. Would you trade if someone was like, I want Marvin Jones? Would you trade him or Galladay to acquire Aaron Jones?
I think that's team dependent. I think if I was very thin at running back and I was deep at receiver, let's just say I had like Landry, John Brown, I had a Chew one, I had like a Mike Evans, and then I had like Marvin Jones and maybe another receiver. I wouldn't have a problem doing it if you're like that. But now if you're thin at receiver and you have a couple RB2s, I think I would stick with Jones and try and maybe get another receiver or something like that. it's kind of team dependent on trades like that because I think they're both in the 2 range.
Yeah.
RB2, wide receiver 2, but you don't want to. If you're really thin at receiver, you don't want to like kind of gut yourself to get a running back of the same tier where you already have some running backs.
Yeah. For me, if I had one of those Lions receivers and I could get Aaron Jones, I would get Aaron Jones 100%, even if I had like a lot of running back depth, just because then I can move that running back or one of my other running backs for like a top tier receiver compared to where like I could never move maybe Marvin Jones or Galladay for like a top, like an Odell or something like that. But now if I trade one of them and I get Aaron Jones, let's just say I have like a Phillip Lindsay who's balling, boom, now I can maybe trade like a Phillip Lindsay and get, a solid wide receiver. And then now I have Aaron Jones. I could just slot right in there and fill that void.
Oh, slide him in there. That's what I'm talking about.
All right, so any other trades? There's a couple defensive trades here. Maybe just talk to that. So I saw that the Redskins, they've been sneaky good, actually, and they have a pretty solid playoff schedule, too. They just traded for safety Clinton Dix from the Packers, so I love this trade for that defense right there. Their team, they're looking like they just want to run the ball and play solid defense, so... And I know, Anthony, I know you touched on the Redskins. Maybe we were just having a side conversation about how they have a good playoff schedule down the stretch. So maybe a team to pick up. I streamed them last week. They actually helped me win a game. I barely won by 2 points, and they got me 16 points. So that was a pretty clutch stream for me right there. Another defensive trade. The Rams, the rich get richer. They just traded for, was it Dante Fowler Jr.?
Something like that.
Former first round pick.
Former first round pick. So... obviously, he hasn't been living up to that first round value, or else they wouldn't have traded him. But I mean, here's a guy who, he's going from one stud defense to another stud defense. I mean, that defensive line for the Rams is going to be. It was already good. It's even better. And like you said, they got Talib just sitting there waiting to come back too. So, man, the Rams, they look good. I think if they don't win the Super Bowl, that's terrible. Yeah, that's terrible because they got offense. And they got the defense. Like, the Chiefs got fucking offense. They got no defense. I mean, the Patriots got offense, but their defense isn't very good either. I mean, the
Rams is insane.
Yeah, it's insane, yeah.
It's not even fair, dude.
Yeah. All right, to the waiver wire.
Yeah, let's get on this waiver wire. We took a little while talking about these trades, but you know what? It's exciting.
Yeah,
it was
a trade deadline week, so, I mean, there's not going to be any trades going forward for the most part, so... That's kind of why this episode will be a little longer.
For sure.
But to the waiver wire.
Let's talk about, let's just start with quarterbacks. How do you guys feel about that? Let's do that.
Do you believe in magic?
Fitzpatrick. He's throwing the ball and getting 20 points in like 2 quarters.
I mean, we'll start with the quarterbacks. I would have Fitzpatrick as my number 1 quarterback ad. He's I read yesterday he's supposed to start this weekend, right?
Yeah, he's going to start.
Yeah. Basically, the Tampa Bay quarterback, whoever it is, whether it's Jameis or Fitzpatrick, and it's going to be Fitzpatrick, there's a lot of value tied to that quarterback. I mean, if you look at what Jameis's numbers were, even with the 4 interceptions, he still had 270 yards and a touchdown. Could have had 2 touchdowns. And if you combine them to, I think it was over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, the defense is just bad. They can't stop anybody. They're going to consistently have to throw the ball. You saw what Fitzmagic did in the first 3.5 weeks. And, I mean, if he's a starter again, he's a top 12 play weekly just because they can't stop anybody, and they have a good offensive attack too as well. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, he was QB1 for those first 3 weeks, and, I mean, Jameis came in, took over, and that's why we were, go grab Jameis. He's out there available. I know you're big on Jameis. The numbers are there. He was throwing, like we said, prior to last week, he was throwing for like 360-plus yards every single game. He's just always been super turnover prone, but I mean, I guess Fitzpatrick's been turnover prone too. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying right here. If whoever the quarterback is in this offense is going to have some like
how crazy
QB1 upside for sure. They got a ton of weapons.
How crazy is that when you're like we want to play Jameis, but his turnover, he's getting too many turnovers. We're going to go with Fitzpatrick. Yeah. It's like, fuck, dude.
Pick Patrick.
I mean, he was on pace for like 5,700 yards in the 3 games he played or whatever. And Fitzpatrick, I think, is the same. Like, this offense is just going to produce a 5,000-yard passer no matter who it is.
For sure.
Combined, it's going to be close to 5,400 yards. I mean, however you want to look at it, it's a good offense, good weapons, can't run the ball, terrible defense. It literally just leads to a weekly recipe of, 300-plus passing yards and however many touchdowns they score.
So let me ask you this. If you had Jameis Winston, would you go pick up Fitzpatrick and then keep them both? Because I can't imagine. Pick Patrick, bro. There's only a matter of time until he explodes, and then they're maybe like, fuck it, let's throw Jameis back in there.
I could totally see them doing that. I could see them starting Jameis again somewhere throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, I hate rostering 2 quarterbacks, but the thing is there's so much value in whoever the starter is that I wouldn't mind holding both of them if you kind of just
It's
want
like
to.
you're handcuffing your quarterback. That's
It's pretty
is that
wild.
even-
It's not even, yeah, it's not even like handcuffing. It's like, I mean, it is kind of, but
Yeah,
I feel like handcuffing's for injuries, though. You know what I mean?
Fitzpatrick's been he played the Bears, which was a tough matchup on the road.
yeah.
But I mean, he's been pretty good outside of that. So I would
For sure.
I would hold him for a week or two. But if Fitzpatrick is just balling out again for the first week or two, and they're getting back in playoff contention, I think after that you could probably drop Jameis Winston. But I think for the first week or two, I'm okay holding both of them.
Another quarterback I saw was, you good?
Well, I was gonna say, I think the problem with the Fitzpatrick Jameis Winston thing is I think the coach prefers Fitzpatrick, but I think the owners and everyone like in the organization
invested in Jameis.
invested the number 1 overall pick, and they're
Yeah.
paying Winston a ton of fucking money, and he's due like $21 million next year, something like that. So I think it's almost like you don't just keep Fitzpatrick the whole year, and then like, what do you do with Jameis now? Because you're gonna owe him $21 million next year. Do you cut him? I mean, so it's like, do they? It's almost like you kind of want to see what you have in Jameis still for the rest of the
Yeah.
year. Like, especially if they're not going to be at the playoffs, you just throw him out there and say, hey, like, let's see if this guy's the future or not, because we're going to have to pay him $21 million next year and even extend him into the future if we want him. If not, then we're going to have to let him go. I'm actually surprised, like, they didn't try to maybe shop him. You know what I'm saying? That was a name that wouldn't have been surprised if you saw Jameis Winston being traded to, like, the Jags or some crazy shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You heard it here first, Jameis Winston on the Jags next year.
They were shopping him, but then he threw one interception and like, all right, we'll give you a 3rd rounder, and then he threw another interception like, all right, we'll give you a 4th rounder.
They're
And
like,
they threw
fuck.
another one, they're like 5th, and they're like, all right, we'll give you a football. And like, all right, we can't make that trade.
A football?
We did deal. Jameis Winston traded for a
It's not
football.
going to get better, dude. It's not gonna-
This just in, Jameis Winston turns over the ball he was traded for.
Dude.
All right, can you do any other quarterbacks really?
I saw Deshaun Watson in a couple of leagues just get dropped after having a couple bad games.
What are these leagues that people are in? Why would you
I
drop?
don't know. I'm just saying, just watch out for that. Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson.
They play
has-
with Justin.
Yeah, just keep an
Yeah.
eye on it. Like you said, I mean, we're in a league. You told me Russell Wilson was dropped. I snagged him.
Yeah.
Any other quarterbacks you're really
welcome.
thinking of?
Yeah,
You're welcome.
But yeah, just keep an eye on, because I mean, yeah, there's always people always panic. They always overreact over 1 week, and then they do something stupid. So I mean, yeah. But is there any other quarterbacks you'd be willing to grab or no?
Baker maybe.
I don't know. That whole scenery is kind of murky now for me. I got to see something before I want to throw him in my lineup.
Yeah, new coordinator, new coach.
But I don't understand why the fuck they fired Todd Haley. I don't get it. Why? How do you keep Hugh Jackson for almost 3 seasons?
Bro, it's a package fire.
Because when he came in there, he was like, "Hey, if you want a Super Bowl winning season the first year, don't count on me." And then the second year, and then the third
He
year-
said if you expect me to have a winning
Oh, yeah, so it was
season,
something like
it wasn't
that,
even
yeah.
a Super Bowl. He said if you expect me to have a winning season my first year, then get out.
He meant
And then the
first 3
second
years.
year, then the second year he did worse, dude.
I feel like he cost Todd Haley his job because he put him on blast and was basically saying, "I need to take over this shit and whatever." So they kind of ended up getting rid of both of them.
I don't know. It's just like, how are you going to have a guy who's pretty successful in Pittsburgh as an offensive coordinator come in, and then you're gonna fire him after 7 fucking games? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me.
For sure.
But
All right, but okay, like you said, let's jump into the running backs then. So
jump
running backs available on the waiver wire. What names jump
nobody.
out?
I'll only pull up a list of what do you have for your first kind of names?
Well, just as on the Fantasy Pros list, they have Frank Gore up there.
List.
Yeah,
But just
nobody.
a name that I wrote down was we touched on him earlier. Is Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones is available in about 50% of leagues. So if he's out
pretty
there,
crazy.
he would be my number 1 waiver priority. Like, go get him 100%. Like I said, he's pretty much a locked in RB2 for the rest of the year. 50% of leagues available out there. I mean, here's a guy where he could help. He could potentially help you win your league.
He does.
you know?
He has RB1 upside.
Yeah, he has
Like,
RB1 upside.
He has
He's
top 12
available
the rest of
in
the way.
50% of leagues. So I saw him out there in one of my leagues, and I was gonna grab him, but then I was like, that backfield's just super messy. I was like, whatever. I'm in a 10 team league. I'm regretting it now.
A
I
10-10 league.
Yeah, 10
10 of
team.
them
You play against tens.
Yeah, run a 10-10.
So another name you could look at, Peyton Barber.
Yeah.
I know it's not the sexiest, Bucks rushing attack, but Ronald Jones hamstring injury, I believe. He's going to be out a couple weeks. And Peyton Barber's actually had a couple good games. He's strung together some decent numbers over the last few weeks. I'm looking at some stuff right now. 106 yards and a touchdown against the Falcons. 85 and a score against the Bengals. So, I mean, he's actually put up some decent numbers the last few weeks, Peyton Barber. So,
Yeah.
I think if he's a name where if you need a running back, you want to, well, at least even when Ronald Jones comes back, I think he's a volume play type of guy who can.
I think a low end too.
Low end too.
For sure. So just a name we kind of touched on, I think, briefly in the past episode was Elijah McGuire. So Bilal Powell, he's out and he's on the IR. He's not coming back.
Isn't Elijah on something?
He was on the IR.
He just came back and started practicing.
He's gonna come back and start practicing. So here's a guy just keep an eye on him. He's available in 95% of leagues. So I mean, if Bilal Powell was rostered in a ton of leagues, this guy needs to be rostered just as much, if not more, because I mean, in the preseason, they were saying that he looked better than Bilal Powell. Like there was reports that they were going to cut Bilal Powell because of McGuire was looking so good, and so it was going to be Crowell and McGuire. And I'm pretty sure that coach for the Jets, he's never really been like a workhorse running back type of coach. He's more of like a 50-50 split guy. So Elijah McGuire, 95% available. He'd be a guy who I would go out and grab.
Yeah, he was the coach was apparently saying he was the next LaDainian Tomlinson. So, and obviously he's not going to be LaDainian Tomlinson, but that it speaks to that this organization views him in an aspect to where they think this guy could be a special talent.
Yeah, they're not afraid to give him a lot of carries.
Yeah, so coming back, like Tyler said, it's been relatively a 50-50 split. He's supposed to take more of the Bilal Powell role, which in negative... Bilal Powell. Elijah McGuire. Tongue twister.
Elijah Wood?
Elijah McWoodwire?
I think Elijah Wood's
On
the guy
the
from Lord of
waiver
the Rings.
wire?
Yeah, now I forgot what I was saying. The Bilal Powell role. So, I mean, he could have some decent PPR value. And, if the Jets kind of are out, they might want to see exactly what they have going into next year with Elijah McGuire. Can he be, kind of more of a 3-down back? Are we going to need to draft another running back? Is he going to need to be in a timeshare? So there's a potential down the stretch that he ends up being more on the 60-40 side of a timeshare just because the Jets need to see, what we have in him going forward. So
yeah, for sure. Go grab him and just stash him, See how they hold him. Like I said, it's like we just called it with the Sutton thing. Go grab him a week before. You'd rather be a week early than a week late. Grab him, stash him, and if he balls out, you have him. I should probably go grab him because I always say this and I don't go grab him, and then I'm like,
I don't understand.
I told you guys, go grab him.
Okay, ready? After this, when we're done recording, I'm gonna edit this, and then you go and fucking do what we talked about this whole time. All right.
All right.
Any other running backs you'd want to talk
There's
about?
There's a few names. Ito Smith as a name you could roster.
Yeah, he's 70% available.
Yeah, he's getting the touches.
I think a lot of people just dropped him because they had the
bye week
last week.
Yeah, I agree. Pick him back up, see what happens. He's been a red zone guy. He's getting about the same carries as Tevin Coleman, so I think he's rosterable. I don't know if you're starting him, but if anything happens to Coleman, you could have a kind of a workhorse back right here too.
You could have a big old dub in
for sure.
your
Yeah, it's like a
lineup.
60-40 split. Coleman to Smith probably. I mean, like we touched on it before. Like he's actually seen more red zone carries than Tevin Coleman. So for sure, yeah, go grab him. I know he had a bad game against the Giants, and then they had a bye week. So like you're saying, a lot of people probably dropped him. So for sure, he needs to be on the roster. Maybe you're not starting him every week, but he's a guy definitely to have. And
Sure.
6 teams. I think 6 teams are on a bye this week, so he definitely has some maybe a potential to play for you. Just a couple of the players that I'm always looking for players out there. So Latavius Murray still available in 20% of leagues. I don't know how. I don't know why. Unless
because there's a lot of 8-team leagues.
Yeah, I guess. But even then, he's put up back-to-back 20-point games. So Dalvin Cook still nursing the hamstring injury, still coming back from the ACL injury. So we don't, he's looked good in the limited plays that he's had, Dalvin Cook. But for the meantime, if Latavius Murray's getting it done. I mean, like I said,
sure.
20 plus points in 3 straight games. And as long as Dalvin Cook's on the sideline, Latavius Murray is pretty much locked and loaded. He should be in your lineup every week. Last week was a tough matchup. The Saints' run defense is like number 1 or top 3 at least. So and he still put up 20 points. So go get him. 20% available.
You know what I like?
If you have Dalvin Cook, you for sure 1,000,000% need to have Latavius Murray on your team.
1
bonerific.
million.
Bonerific.
Deep. This is kind of a deep name. Josh Adams, running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, Corey Clement hasn't looked too good so far with his touches. Wendell Smallwood, he's the lead right now, but he hasn't looked too good. And Josh Adams is he's given them a little bbit of a spark in the running game. Last week, 9 for 61. The week before, 4 for 17. In limited work, 20 carries for 170 yards and 5.4 yards per carry. You know, the receiving work on his aspects yet to be seen, but this is just a name to where if I'm kind of 5-2, 6-1, and I got a player I could stash and see if maybe he hits 2-3 weeks from now. I think he's a running back to where he could end up being, you know, every year there's guys who pop up in week 11, 12 and end up, you know, being league winners down the playoff stretch. I know this is a committee system, but he could be the spark that they're looking for in a high-powered offense, a good offense. So I don't know if that registered, but if it did, nice. So he's kind of just a stash name to where if you have a deeper bench and you just want to hold on someone and maybe have a lottery ticket on your bench, you know, go ahead and take a flyer on this guy.
Yeah, he definitely looked better than all those guys over there. That situation is just murky for me. It's kind of like that's starting to turn into like how the Packers situation was. There's 3 running backs over there. It's just way too much. I mean, I get what you're saying. Take a chance on them. You never know. Blow up on them. But I need to see him being more consistent before I want to throw him in my lineup with any type of confidence.
Yeah, so he's a deep like name to stash.
Deep stash for
or
sure.
Keep an eye on it because if you see another week of 10 plus carries and 50 plus yards and a couple of receptions and maybe a touchdown, I mean, that could end up maybe being the norm for him going down. They wanted a running back and they wanted to trade for a running back.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't need to trade and maybe this is the guy that ends up becoming the RB1 in this committee.
Another running back thing is Bell still has not shown up.
He's dead to me. Who's that?
Revion?
He's dead to me.
Revion, bro.
Oh, she's a Vikings fan? She's dead to me.
Dog, that was so crazy. Did you hear that girl?
No.
When we were watching the Dolphins game, she was like, "Oh, you guys all Dolphins fan?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're all Dolphins fans." Well, I'm not a Dolphins fan, but they were like, and I was like, "Yeah, but his sister's a Vikings fan." And she's like, "She's dead to me." You don't remember her saying
I think so. I was a couple Jameson shots deep by that point.
It was like the game hadn't even started. The fucking Dolphins suck.
I was like, "Hey, you guys see Osweiler?"
It's like, do you have a rough day today and you're blaming it on the Dolphins? Or
Chug it. Chug it.
Bro, you manifested that fucking big L, eh?
I knew we were going to lose. Anyways, so let's just touch on this number 2 because Doug Martin, he's available in 50% of leagues. How do you feel about him? He had a pretty decent game.
Yeah.
Stat line was pretty actually surprisingly better than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, roster him at this point. If he's there, grab him.
I mean, he's pretty much he's technically the starting running back. So,
He did huck it, chuck it football.
let's just put some of these like out there. Say if some of these guys out there, how would you rank them? Aaron Jones,
One.
Doug Martin, Elijah McGuire, Ito Smith. Like, how would you rank those guys?
I'd go Aaron Jones 1. Who was it? Doug Martin and Elijah.
Doug Martin, Elijah.
I think if you want the upside, I would shoot with Elijah. So it's kind of a 2A, 2B right there. If you want someone who has a high ceiling potential to maybe, you know, see a pretty good workload, I would go with McGuire. Otherwise, if you want more of the guaranteed now type of running back, I would go with Doug Martin.
Yeah.
And then who was the other guy?
Ito Smith.
I'd have Ito Smith at 4. We kind of know what he is in his timeshare, so we already know what that is.
I'm not sure. I didn't write down the own percentage for him, but I know Jalen Richard's out there in a ton of leagues. And, you know, when I touched on him in another past episode, you know, he's had 6+ receptions in 4 of the 6 games. He had 8 this last game. So, and he's had 50 or more total yards in 4 of the 6 games. He had more than 50. I think he had 50 receiving yards exactly. I don't know how many rushing yards he had. Maybe
like 2 attempts, like 8 yards.
Yeah, something like that. So, but here's a guy, like I said, he's getting 50 yards at least minimum, a floor, and then, you know, he's getting 6+ catches pretty much every single week. We just touched on, you know, Derek Carr, captain check down. Everything's 5 yards line of scrimmage. So Jalen Richard would be a guy for sure. Go grab him if he's out there, especially PPR leagues. Obviously, the standard's a little tough, but PPR, he definitely has a high and a safe floor. I know he's got to be available in at least 40% of leagues, 50% of leagues. So go grab him.
He's like one of those, I hate to say the word stupid, but stupid PPR running backs where like you're playing against your opponent and they have Jalen Richard and you're like, oh, he's got Jalen Richard, I'm good, and you have like an actual running back who gets like 70 yards on the ground and, you know, 20 yards on 2 catches. Here comes Jalen Richard with 9 receptions for 42 yards and he outscores the running back you had out there, and he's just That's
sometimes I feel like PPR leagues the receptions should only be for
receivers and half for running backs.
Yeah, or something.
I kind of like that scoring. I've heard some people talk about it. I've even brought it up.
Gets so freaking annoying.
Yeah, like you have a running back who has a good game. Like I said, he'll get like 70 yards on the ground. You know, maybe 17 carries, 70 yards, 2 for 20 in the air. And then you have fucking Jalen Richard, 9 catches for 43 yards, and he outscores him, and you're like, motherfucker, out of
it doesn't make any sense.
And he gets into the end zone on one of those catches, and you're just like, dude.
All right, so let's jump over the wide receivers right here. We touched on Sutton. He's available in 85% of leagues. I'd for sure, be trying to get him in my team if I can. Kiki Cutie, we touched on him too. He's available 80% of leagues. For sure, trying to go get him too. Thursday night, Devontae Parker, available in 80% of leagues. Would you want to go get Devontae Parker if he's out there? Or?
I mean,
how's his pinky?
How's his body? Because he just always gets hurt. I don't have a problem taking a flyer on Devontae Parker. I think in this matchup, if you watch the Thursday night game, you saw his potential upside. So I mean, he was drafted in the first round. Even just some of the catches he made, so you could see he's like coming. He's just a big guy who high points the ball, a slant route. The guy was all over him. He reached behind him, caught the ball. He goes up in some of these catches and makes big plays. He could have had a 60-yard touchdown had Brock Osweiler not overthrown him by 15 yards. He literally had 7 yards of separation. Osweiler threw a laser.
In the middle of the field was around him, wide open.
10 yards over his head. So, I mean, could Devontae Parker flop? But at this point, I mean, he might be one of the highest upside receivers you're going to get on the waiver wire from here going forward.
Yeah, so for sure. I mean, Kenny Still's still kind of nursing a groin injury, I think it is. Albert Wilson's out for the year. The Dolphins don't have a tight end. I mean, they obviously drafted this guy in the first round for a reason. Like you said, we saw he flashed what he's all about in his Thursday night game. He's still a young receiver too. He's young 20s, so I mean, he's still got potential to grow. He's not even close to being in his prime of what he's capable of being. So, yeah, for sure, go out there, grab him, take a flyer on him. They got to throw the ball to somebody. So
somebody's got to get that ball.
Somebody's gonna get that ball. So that kind of keeps me on the same field. I just wanted to touch on Danny Amendola. So he's available in 55% of leagues. Danny Amendola will be like more of a PPR guy for me. I think he's had 14 plus PPR points in 3 straight games. He threw a touchdown last week, but he'd be a guy for sure, especially PPR. Like I said, think of maybe a poor man's Edelman. They did play for the Patriots together. But poor man's Edelman, he's a PPR guy. He should see a ton of targets. I would imagine he's going to get a lot of those targets that Albert Wilson was seeing. I mean, you got Jakeem Grant, but he's kind of a gadget guy. He's probably only 3-4 targets a game. Like I said, Kenny Stills is not really a big volume guy either. He's only getting 3 or 4 catches a game, if that. So if I was going to roster, these guys, Danny Amendola, PPR guys, Devontae Parker, the ceiling for that guy's through the roof. So, I mean, if you got a spot, go grab him.
Yeah, I mean, if Parker ends up being a guy who's seeing 9 targets a game, 8 targets, 10 targets, I mean, there's not a lot of receivers you can get off the waiver wire that can go 6 for 120 in a game, 7 for 140, stuff like that. So, I mean, the ups just based off of the pure upside, whether he flops or not, I'd be trying to grab him because you could have a wide receiver too, maybe even high end in some matchups where Miami's defense doesn't look good. They could be throwing the ball a ton going down the stretch. They've lost a lot of key players on defense, and games could get ugly very fast. So Devontae Parker could fall into necessarily having to get 8 to 10 targets a game. I mean, they play Green Bay coming up, New England coming up. These are games where I wouldn't be surprised if Devontae Parker saw 12 targets in those games and goes 6-7 catches for maybe 70 to 100 yards. So just the upside is massive there potentially.
For sure, yeah. I mean, he had that game with Brock Osweiler at quarterback. So, I mean, Tannehill's going to come back. I know a lot of people think Tannehill, they think trash instantly, but as us being Dolphin fans, we know Tannehill's way better than Osweiler, and Tannehill's actually been pretty consistent. His completion percentage is really good. And I mean, like I said, Houston, they're tough against the wide receiver, and he had a crazy good game against them. So in easier matchups, like you just touched on, for sure, the potential's there for him. Any other receivers you want to touch on? You got DJ Moore available in 90% of the league. Would you be touching him or?
I think in a deeper league, go ahead. Funchess is kind of the one. He's been moving his snap percentage up. It's just with DJ Moore, it's I don't know if I'm gonna ever really feel comfortable throwing him out there in a matchup. That's kind of where I'm at with him. I know he's had a couple decent games, but I mean, it's not like he's had any a huge spectacular game where it's all right, I'm gonna take a flyer and start DJ Moore this week. I don't know how you guys feel about him, but.
Nah, I probably wouldn't. I would feel way more comfortable with, like we just said, Danny Amendola. I'd rather take the upside on a Parker. I mean, you got Sutton. You know, got a couple bunch of these other guys out here. He wouldn't be anyone I'd be willing to roster.
He's one of those flyer guys where, okay, if you have an extra spot where you're just rostering, if you have a dead spot in your roster, like go ahead and take a flyer on him, see what he develops into. But, you know, if I'm not going to really drop anyone of significance for him.
Yeah, I mean, last week Torrey Smith was out; he missed a game. So if Torrey Smith comes back, then I would assume that's just going to limit, you know, his upside and his potential there.
What about Mr. Duquan?
Traquan Smith. I mean, how do you feel about it? I feel like this team is, you know, they got Drew Brees, but it's like I feel they're starting to turn to more like this defense is turning around. You know, they just traded for Eli Apple. You can't really run on them, so defense is better. Seems like they're turning into more of like a defensive team. They want to run the ball. They're going to throw the ball when they can. But I mean, you saw in this last game,
Michael Thomas only had like 10 points.
So I don't know how comfortable he'd be. Like the third or fourth option on like a team that's trending away from passing. And then what do you feel?
Yeah,
I liked him.
He's kind of like one of those me and Mike kind of touched on it in the last episode we recorded. Is to me, he's one of those home run guys, like a Marquise Goodwin, like we said in that matchup, or a couple other guys where it's just you're kind of banking and hoping on. Screw it! I have buys this week, and I want a receiver who can go out there and maybe catch 2 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. I mean, at this point, like you said, they're becoming a little more run heavy. Their defense is getting better. He's, you know, the three in the pecking order at best on a given read. You know, you have the running backs, Michael Thomas, even the tight ends. So he's someone where I'm kind of, you know, fading a little bit.
Although he does have the Bucks game this week,
and he does get to play against that PJ Williams. I know that's their own corner. He does get to practice against him though. All right, so receiver position, we done? Or you got any other names?
Well, for me, the name I want to touch on is Chris Godwin. So he's available in 50% of leagues still, and like you know, I touched on him in a couple previous episodes. You know, he's been catching a touchdown. I had my phone off, but now I need to turn it on.
Jesus, bro.
God,
you're about to grow out of the podcast booth.
Dog, I'm literally.
I had it off, but then I need to turn it on so I can look at some shit. This is why I got to get a tablet, unless someone wants to sponsor.
Or how
us,
about
bro.
fix your fucking phone, dude?
I don't
how
know
can
how
you
to
not
do
turn off
that.
your
The
phone?
only guy I've ever known who can't silence his phone. I can't figure. I don't know how to silence it.
Hey, how about you guys?
He said his fucking
Suck
notch
me.
is broken or something. I don't know, but God.
Anyways, so
Even Pups is
Godwin,
coming in here to talk shit.
he's available in 50% of leagues. Here's a guy I think you need to own. Like I think he's had a touchdown in like 4 or 7 games, something like that, 5 or 7 games. He's a red zone guy too, so he has 8 targets inside the 10-yard line. And then looking at the numbers with Fitzpatrick, he's actually the second most targeted passer on that team with Fitzpatrick. So Evans has 37 targets, then Godwin has 24 targets, Djax 22, and then OJ Howard 18. So if Fitzpatrick's going to take over and be the quarterback there, we were just talking about how there's QB1 value in that offense. Give me the wide receiver too over there. Deshaun's kind of like the touchdown guy, the deep ball type. But I mean, it said Godwin right here. He's when Fitzpatrick's in there, he's he's second on the team in targets, and he's got 8 red zone targets. So go get him. He just needs to be rostered.
So get Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin. Yeah.
Chris Godwin.
He's filled with lots of mushrooms. If you guys didn't know,
mushrooms. That's how good he is, bro. He's getting mushrooms. I just need to get a tablet.
Chris Mushroom. Or you
MVS?
just silence your phone.
How about MVS? Without that Ty Montgomery, do you think that boosts the offense enough for MVS?
I don't think it really changes. I think this week he was on the field more than Allison and Cobb, and I think it was more of just they hadn't really practiced for the last 3 weeks and kind of just getting back up to speed. And he was on the field for more than them. I don't think you're going to see him on the field more than them going forward.
For sure.
He could be a stash. I mean, if you got an empty spot, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have seen people, they have like Ronald Jones still rostered and shit like that. I'd probably drop him or, I'd rather have like an MVS over like a Frank Gore.
Would you drop
example,
like Buck Allen for
Would you rather
MVS?
Yeah, I'd rather have like an MVS over Buck Allen.
Would you rather have MVS over like some of the other guys we touched on, like DJ Moore, Devontae, Traquan, Kiki?
I'd rather have him over Traquan, DJ Moore, but like Amendola, Sutton, Parker, Kiki, I'd probably keep those guys over MVS because those guys are for sure going to be on the field and they're for sure going to see a good amount of targets. So
You're making some good points here, Tyler.
To the tight ends, them booties.
To the tight ends. Dude, this Ricky Seals, bro. 1 reception for 12 yards, dude. Fucking sick.
The tight ends. Who do you have on your list?
So for me, I have Jack Doyle. He's up there. So just some interesting numbers since this is Doyle's first game back in, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. So crazy. Ebron's just been balling in his absence. So Ebron actually had a good game too because he caught a touchdown. But just some numbers. Yeah, So just some numbers on this tight end situation right here. So there was 58 offensive snaps for the Colts. Jack Doyle played 57 of them. Ebron only played 17 of them. So if that shows you anything about how they view Jack Doyle, and Ebron's been balling. Like here's a player who's just playing crazy. Touchdowns, 2 touchdown games. You know, this guy's hurt. All of a sudden, the guy comes back and he plays 99% of the snaps, like 99.9% of the snaps. And then this other guy who's been balling gets demoted to 17 snaps. Ebron only ran 13 routes the whole game. So that kind of makes me nervous if you're an Ebron owner, and kind of makes me. You know, if you got Jack Doyle's out there, last time I saw he was out there in like 75% of leagues. Last time I checked, he probably went up since then. But for sure, if you need a tight end, he's available out there. He would be my number 1 tight end. Go get him because I mean, you know, Andrew Luck. He was listening to Average Bros podcast and he said, "What, Anthony? You don't think I'll throw the ball 60 times? Hold my beer."
Wait, how do you play 99.9% of the snaps?
You miss one.
You'd have to play 1,000 snaps and miss one. Or something, yeah.
No, you play
1,000 snaps and miss one.
No, you play. No. You play one, and there's too many men on the field, and you're like, bro. So that's like.
You run off and jump across the sideline as like time's running out. I almost played that snap.
Yeah, that is pretty weird.
Hey, fuck you guys.
No, it is 99.9%, dude.
Did you need to turn on your phone?
Oh, sick numbers, dude. Way to fucking bring those numbers in.
He had to turn on his phone and make all that noise just for that.
I hate you guys.
But I agree.
Dude,
I'll make it quick so we don't re-elaborate. But I agree with everything Tyler said. Ebron, 22% of the snaps now that he's back. The first 2 weeks when he was there, 28 and 45. So if you have Ebron, sell him. If you have Jack Doyle, you're looking pretty.
Start him.
Yeah.
Tight end. Another tight end. I know Vance McDonald was available in a ton of leagues.
What about Mo Alley Cox? I just like that name.
More Alley Cox?
More Alley Cox. Did you see his touchdown grab in that game or no?
No.
It was pretty fucking good.
Yeah. He's a big guy.
Could be like catch of the year type good. It was pretty
Really?
good.
He's like 7'9". He's just like a big dude. He's like probably 300. I'm joking. He's probably like 6'8", like 300 pounds, and he just went up backward, like jumped back, made this one-handed catch, and like into the end zone.
Bonerific?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that.
3 touchdowns from the tight ends in Indy. But anyways, Vance McDonald, right?
Yeah, Vance McDonald. So I know he's available in a ton of leagues. Go
Dude's
grab
a
him.
truck.
The
they're
schedule.
they're using Jesse James less and less every week.
Yeah, you pull up the snap for them. Could you?
The snap.
The snap percentage.
They both played 1 snap.
Yeah, just know one thing going forward for the playoff schedule is that the Steelers passing schedule down the stretch is pretty juicy. So I snagged Vance McDonald in the league. I'm pretty hyped about it.
Yeah, after this week, we're not going to have to play the Ravens again.
Ooh,
So.
surprising. Was he hurt this week, Hobble? Because it was 38% to Vance, 56 to Jesse James.
Really?
I think it's because Red Dead came out, so they're playing Jesse James.
Oh.
Oh, pew 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 pew. Doof, doof. Oh wait, that's a silencer. Got to take that off.
That was like the ray gun from Zombies.
That's a 44 Magnum, bitch. Blah blah blah.
What gun was that?
Dude, that's the blah blah.
The black
Blah 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 blah. Jesse James. Actually, yeah, you're right. I think they did use Jesse James.
But even then, he played less than Jesse James, but his stat line was like 4 for 40 or something or like that.
Jesse James
more
just
efficient.
he fucks up plays.
He fucks up plays.
If I could turn my phone on, I would look at the number, but I don't want to hear it.
He hasn't had the highest target volume. As far as where is he at? I'm looking at it right now. 5.55.283 with Vance McDonald. So he's kind of one of those guys that you said find the matchup.
I think he had like 3 for 47 or something.
Yeah,
like that
find the
was.
matchup to where it's a plus matchup where it's going to be more of a shootout, and you have a higher chance of him kind of booming in that type of week.
Yeah.
But if it's a tough matchup, AB's going to see his, Juju's going to see his, James Conner / Bell's going to see his. So find those juicier matchups. Like you said, maybe he's a good playoff guy because there's just a lot of scoring going on, and he's someone who could have some good games.
Yeah. Anyone else? I mean, tight end's pretty rough.
How about that Texans tight end with 2 touchdowns? How about just play a tight end against the fucking Dolphins?
How about you just play everyone against the Dolphins?
You know who plays the Dolphins next week? Chris Herndon from the Jets. 2 touchdowns guaranteed.
Yeah, if it's a no-name guy, then play him against the fucking Dolphins.
You're like, who's this guy? Oh, 2 touchdowns.
You guys had the Lions tight end get 2 touchdowns over 1.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns, and then you play the Texans and
He had 2,
fucking
right?
Jonathan Smith or whatever.
He had 2 or almost had 2. I know he had 1 at least.
No, yeah, I know he had at least 1, but it was yeah. If it's a no-name tight end,
I don't even know his name.
If it's a no-name tight end, then play him against Miami.
Yeah, if you're in a standard league, Chris Herndon has actually scored in 3 games in a row, and he plays Miami next week, so he's going to score his 4th and 5th and 6th touchdowns next week.
Actually, low key, I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, that would.
What about your boy Geoff?
Goff. Another name to maybe keep an eye on is Ed Dixon of Seattle. He was 2 for 54 last week and a touchdown. Just kind of keep an eye on him. I know he's someone you want to grab yet, but he could have potential, playability down the road.
Yeah, second half, Russell Wilson starting to get
How about
hot.
this Vernon Davis against the Falcons?
Probably not. I think the Falcons have been limiting tight ends, actually. It's because you just rape them everywhere else. They're just not. The tight ends like the
only
one
thing.
Yeah.
I hate talking about. Are we good with tight ends or no?
Yeah.
I hate talking about kickers, but check if Matt Bryant's there because he was on a bye week and he was out the week before, and he's actually a semi-consistent kicker.
Yeah.
So if you need a kicker, any defenses you guys like this week for like picking up streaming?
Yeah, I like the Cowboys this week.
Cowboys, the mad scientist
The mad
stream of the week,
scientist.
or what? Can we get the official stamp of approval?
No. Who else do I like?
I do like the Cowboys at home. Their defense has been sneaky good.
Playing Tennessee.
Playing Tennessee, I'm not worried about that offense at all.
Yeah, I like that. And then I know we talked about it before. Denver just has a really, really juicy playoff schedule. I know you're like talking about what's the point of stashing a defense, but like I really do think that it's a good team to stash.
Yeah, no, it's in the beginning of the year.
I'm about to pick up another defense and then also Denver's defense.
In the beginning of the year, I think when it's important to like you get the players, find these players who's booming, but I think after about week 8,
It's got the black lung, pup.
week 9 is where you can start. You're gearing up for playoffs at this point.
Listen to this. For week 14, 15, 16, they play San Francisco, Cleveland, and Oakland.
It's pretty. I mean, those quarterbacks are all shaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you know you're a playoff team, like don't stash the defense for the playoffs. There's nothing wrong with that. Like you already know you're there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just not mad at that.
So yeah, the Cowboys, sneaky, maybe good stream. For me, I'm a Dolphins fan, and I hate to say this, but I picked up the Jets in 2 weeks, and I'm gonna start the Jets.
Yeah, that's my third one is the Jets. That's probably the one that I like the most this week is the Jets.
I kind of like the Chefs this week too against Cleveland.
Ooh. They have been getting better. The Chiefs
The
defense.
Chefs, yeah, they've been cooking up a few points.
Yeah.
Been cooking it up.
They've been grilling and.
But yeah, the
killing.
Jets, I for sure like them. Miami's our O line is shaky, and the Jets front 7 is probably top 10 of the league. They have really good D linemen, and division game.
How about
I'm nervous for that game for the Dolphins, to be honest.
would you, if you had to, would you take Oakland versus San Francisco?
Negative.
Yeah, I don't like that either. That's a good defense, but yeah, I'm okay on that.
Yeah, I think Jets.
I mean, what about how do you feel about playing the Broncos at home against the Texans? I mean, we touched on the Texans' offensive line not being very good.
Yeah, see, that's like
I'm okay with it.
If I don't end up getting the Jets defense, I might have to just throw Broncos.
If
in
you
there.
have them, if you already have them and you don't want to pick them in their defense, I'm okay with starting them in that matchup.
I have the Broncos defense. I'm gonna start them in a league or two.
But
I do like the Cowboys defense Monday night against the Titans, though.
Yeah.
All right, guys, beer bet. Oh, dude, Wait, can we talk about it really quick? Cam Newton fucking rushed a touchdown in, but it was on the left side. He almost
Did
hit
he
the
almost hit the
pylon.
pylon?
Dog, he almost like tripped over it, and I was like, dude, no fucking way. It was on the left side. Did you hear what we did?
Yeah, your beer bets
Did the beer bet for
for a
Cam
case
Newton?
of beer.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know.
He's like, I gotta get some odds on this one.
So
What other beer bets did you have?
I can't remember.
Oh,
It was Buck Allen against, or not Buck Allen, Alex Collins against someone.
I think Alex Collins won that one, right?
I can't remember.
We'll have to replay the episode.
All right, let's bet. Just for fun. Let's bet what kicker is gonna have the most points this week. Just throw a fucking name out there before we end this. Is there more defenses you guys want to talk about
I'm
first?
gonna go with Justin Tucker.
Negative. I'll go. I don't even know if this fucking team are the Vikings even playing this week.
Yeah,
Who are they playing?
at home against the Lions.
I'll take Dan Bailey.
Dan Bailey. Dan Barry.
Are you gonna pick your kicker?
All right, I'm gonna pick Greg Gano. How the
Gano.
fuck-
Greg Gano.
He's so stupid.
All
right. You heard it here first. Kick your beer bets. So we'll make things happen.
That's against Tampa Bay, guys.
And that's it.
Yeah, boy, won. Sorry, this is a little bit longer. That's not. It actually didn't go over too much. It was hour 20.
We had a trade
but-
deadline, so
Yeah, a lot of trades to talk about. Some exciting stuff. Go check us out on everything. Please rate us on iTunes. It fucking helps. And I feel like nobody ever does it, but just please do it.
I do it.
Well, it doesn't work. You probably shouldn't say that.
I rate us.
Go check us
They
out
don't know
on
it's me.
YouTube. We got full video format there. You can see our beautiful faces. You can see handsome Squidward, Turbo Mick Golem over there with the hoodie on. Fucking. You can see my white ass. Also, if you have any questions, we're gonna do. I liked doing answering the questions on Saturday before the games. I think we're gonna do that again. So send us those questions on it. Bro, you can hear everything you're doing when you fucking touch that thing. It just sounds like scuffing. Okay. What was I saying? Fucked me up, bro.
You gotta focus.
Because he's molesting his now. I can't
Send us
remember.
some questions.
Yeah, send us questions. Jesus fuck. Send us questions. We would appreciate it on the Instagram.
Make sure you put them claims in before midnight.
Yeah, because I'm an
And pay
idiot. and I
attention
do
to
that.
who drops, who gets dropped.
Yeah.
Like I said, people are dropping people like Deshaun Watson. People are overreacting. They're dropping people. So pay attention to people who, not who other people are getting, but who people are dropping.
Yeah, because people are dumb and stuff. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
No, I'm saying,
They don't
bro.
listen to the average bros.
All right, we're out of here. We're all going to go play Red Dead, except for Mike because he doesn't have it.
Hey.
Did you buy it too?
Yep.
No way. You. Did you really?